Okay, now I believe you had the idea that you wanted to play a dryad.
Yeah, that was the plan.
Okay then. Give me Now in the Divine Blood, the Divine Blood RPG, I have a few more dials on the game, quite a few more dials on the game than Fate Core generally uses. I base mine off of Strands of Fate, which is a bit of a point buy thing.
Okay.
I still prefer to use the Fate Core gameplay, but since you're not familiar with it, it'll be relatively new for you. We'll start with character creation first. Let's see. Now, there is no set character sheet for this game, so you're just going to have to put the information in the bio and info. I'm not going to edit your sheet for you. You can do that for yourself. Um, I am going to type out on the board. I'm going to use this particular map for the character creation talk. Specifically, I'm going to type out on the board some of the things that will go. I'll first start with the steps. I'll also actually give me a moment. I'll link up the oh yeah, I'll link up the character creation comic that's on my DeviantArt page. Give me a moment.
All right. I'm mostly just like looking at like the skill list because it looks like based on your thing on your blog,
I
we
use a
get
different skill system than the one that I was going to use because Eli's in this and we're getting character creation done a little bit early. I decided I can go ahead and use my game, and I use a little bit different. I don't use the skill system used in Fate Core. It's actually one of the stickler points that makes me have a little bit of a difficulty with Fate Core is the skill system. Um,
All right, I think I'll just wait for you to like proper explain things then because I'm not going to get anywhere on my own.
okay, I apologize. Could you go ahead and tell me what you've noticed from looking at it real quick?
I mean, basically, I just have an SRD site open. From what it looks like on your site, there's you can pick 10 skills and you get like +4 and one, +3 and two, +2 and three, and like, all that junk, all the way
Yeah,
up to 10, all the way up to 10 skills, and then from the SRD site, it looks like there's more than 10 skills. So obviously, I'm trying to build a character reading up on these.
right. And I was going to do that because more people are familiar with Fate than they are with Strands of Fate, and it is really quick to build a character, and you can leave slots to. It's a lot easier to build a character as you're playing. So it's good for one-shot things where you don't have time to build a character beforehand. Um, but for my own purposes, I prefer the system I use in Strands of Fate, where you have a list of usually it's 12 attributes. I use 15 because I also have the psychic attributes. Um, and then your advantages give you bonuses in specific tasks, and that's how you represent skill. Give me a moment. There are 5 basic steps to character creation. Hello, Eli.
Hello. Well, I'm ready to get started.
Okay. So those are the 5 steps there. Since we're both here, which power level would you like for the campaign? Would you like relatively low powered individuals?
Well, thing is, all I really know about the characters so far is that they are the captain of the ship. I wasn't sure what sort of powers we could give them.
Well, you don't necessarily have to give him powers, and given in the position he's in, it's unlikely that he has any. But power level, as in a general state, as how many points you get in the purchasing. My thought for given the two character types you're presenting is probably ring 11 or ring 10, which is near the lower levels because the power level counts down based it's which is I know is an annoying thing to do in a game system, but it's related to things that go on in the game world. But
All right.
ring 11 is ring 12 is like where you do if you were doing a sitcom or high school thing, uh, really out either really not dangerous stuff or really outside of your depth. Ring 11 is a little bit more competent adult, and Ring 10 is getting into professionals and low level superheroes, action hero type things.
I'd say 11 probably works then.
Yeah, 11. That based on your thing, 11 sounds good.
I mean, it would be kind of weird if Superman or a Superman analog was driving some sort of flying vessel.
Well, to get to Superman, you would probably have to be past the level of the probably in Ring 4 or 3, and I haven't really written rules for that. I
Oh
could
boy.
I could go in. That's like getting into globally characters with power on a global scale. Uh, so
Yeah, no, that's not necessary for this one, I think.
yeah, 11 is kind of like Ring 11 would probably be like your average detective TV show. Ring 10 is more along the lines of Sherlock Holmes or action television things. Or um, Ring 9 would be like the Marvel television series type stuff.
Mm.
Also note where it does not say there, but you're also all each going to get 3 free expert advantages. Okay.
Nice.
I don't think I have a specific suggested template for pilot or captain of a ship, but I do have a specific suggested template for Dryad. Give me a moment.
All right. I'm not really sure what you have for skills, but like the core system has some skills that I thought would be good for piloting, like craft and drive and all that jazz.
Yeah, I'm going to type out the abilities before we get any further, actually. Um, Let me start with the physicals. Let's see. Agility, endurance. So those are the 4 physical things and how you figure out the physical stress track. That's the mental ones. Okay, so those are the abilities in this, and you have 27 points to spread between them. Again, as I said, there is no specific character sheet for Roll20 for this game, so you're going to have to just put it in the bio and info thing.
Okay. So like kind of the thing that I don't really get is like some of the basic language here, like aspects and like specialty aspects. I'm not really. Did you explain that and I just missed it, or am
No,
I
no,
just
I
dumb?
hadn't gotten to it. I was waiting till we got the power set up before we got into it. Okay, so character aspects are one of the things that is aspects are one of the things about Fate that is very different from the way game like Dungeons and Dragons works. They are basically concepts about what your character is. The Strands of Fate system that I based the character gen in Divine Blood off of expands this by doing specialty aspects, which are I'll get to them when we get to them. We now there we do not have to define all the aspects right away. We can leave some blank to define in character, in gameplay. Now the two ones that we will want to define are the defining aspect, which would be called the high concept on that SRD you have, and the disadvantage, which that SRD would call the trouble. And character aspects are they're basically things that are true about your character. They're core concepts about your character. So the defining aspect would make some reference to the fact that your character is a dryad, and maybe a little bit about their personality or their things. If this were a movie, that would be the tagline to describe a character on the trailer.
Okay. So like, does it need to be a characteristic, or can her aspect just be she's a dryad? Like that's it.
Well, you can do Dryad, but it leaves things very simple and doesn't provide a lot of play ability. Let me find some of the example characters I have. Um, here, no, these are example antagonists.
You don't know. Maybe that's where I'm going with. No, I'm not gonna.
Uh, Sample characters. Okay, one of the sample characters is okay. Here's her defining aspect: possessed high school girl.
Okay.
Another one is bastard werecat, and I'll actually spell it out in the chat over here so you know exactly what they were going for. They set out Bast because the character is the daughter of Bast, so it was a demigod werecat. So bastard werecat.
That's a nice little play on words.
Yep. Then there's another character which was collector and maker of occult things. And the sample character in the character creation comic, her defining aspect was plain Jane psychic spy. You kind of want to have more than just your species in there. That'd be like starting with an aspect of human.
Am human.
So, for example, if we were talking Harry Dresden, he would be a wizard private eye. So, background and profession together does make a good aspect. In a lot of the cases where they're talking about doing D&D worlds with Fate Core system, they would change the race and class into an aspect. So your aspect might be, let's see, Goliath, Monk, Brawler. Or mute Goliath monk. Excuse me. That would probably be it.
Ah, yes, you remember Orleo.
Yes. So that's kind of what you need. It's basically just your character in a nutshell. The way you would introduce a character to somebody else. The elevator pitch, so to speak.
No, Drift, this is my character in a nutshell. Help, I'm in a nutshell.
Okay. And just so you know, Eli, we are recording this. I might post it up later. It's not going live, but I might post it up later. I am live streaming
Oh
the
my.
But since we're using my actual game system and I'd like to have the advertising, I'm going to go ahead and record.
All right.
Okay. So let's go ahead and start with. You can start wherever you want. Let's really in general you can start wherever you want. But to make this easy, I'm going to start with the character aspects. Now the system uses what they call the aspect alphabet, and that's generally what I do when I'm doing play testing, and generally what I'm doing when I'm dealing with new people, because the aspect alphabet really gives you a good idea on what to fill in on the particular blanks. You don't have to use it. You can just generally fill it in with whatever. On a note, the character aspects basically describe your character's story arc. What kind of things would happen to them over the course of a television series, if you were to think of it that way.
Sorry, could you like repeat that for me again? I don't know. I didn't get it.
Okay, so the character aspects are broad truths about your character. I haven't gotten into how they would be used in the actual game yet. I'll get to that in a moment. Um, because I'm typing.
Yeah, I'm actually like taking notes on what you're saying so I can figure this out later.
I'll tell you this, for a teacher, I'm really bad at explaining my own game.
Just build a lesson plan for me.
Okay. So the five character aspects that are suggested, there's defining aspect, ambition aspect, background aspect, conviction aspect, and disadvantage aspect. These are broad truths about your character. You can use them, invoke them by using fate points, which you get based off how much refresh you have. To say, oh no, I'm about to fail this roll. I want to invoke the fact that uh, I am an experienced luxury ship captain, and I would know what to do in this situation.
Right.
So when you invoke them, they do one of two things mechanically. They can give you a +2 on a roll, or they can allow you to re-roll. And the way I usually do this is I have the die roll define what's happening up to that last moment where you have any influence over what goes on, where it's too late to stop, and some consequences will be had, but you still have some time to do something to influence the way things are going. And that gives you the chance to do things like I'll spend a fate point so that I don't fall down the pit or something like that. That's one of the common ones people have about the game. Is like, well, you can't change the way things are going if you've already jumped. About jumping over a chasm, and if you rolled a bad roll, then you should fall down into the between the chasm. The way I do it is the roll takes you up to just that point before you're going to jump, and what happens next depends on whether you spend fate points or succeed with cost or what other option you take. So basically, I use the roll to set up how much success is going to cost you rather than whether you succeed or fail. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. I feel like I get that. Mostly it's gonna be like I understand how to play the game. It's getting my stats and my abilities and my aspects that are gonna just have a hard time for me.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, that was the bit that got me, that I had the hardest trouble with getting into Fate, going into Dresden. And I started with very simple things. So we know your character's a dryad. What else do we know about her history, or her type, or her character? What does she do for a living?
All
What?
right,
Go on.
all right. So, uh, um, I don't know. Let's start making stuff up.
That's the
So
point.
she used to be a psychic, but the way that dryads work is they lose that. So um, I was thinking maybe her trouble is that she tries to do psychic stuff and then just can't.
Yeah, potentially, if you were willing to just about kill yourself, you might be able to pull off something with a dryad. But the parasite in you eats most of your energy, so yeah.
Yeah, I was like looking at the stuff on your blog about it, and I was like, oh boy, it'd be really cool to be like an OP super god and be like one of the hybrids that can do both. But like that's not actually fun. What's actually fun is having a flawed character and then having to live with that.
Mhm. Well, yeah, the other thing is you can make a really low powered god or demon as well, by the way. But, um,
Yeah, I thought about demon, but then I was like, I don't know. Then I just read the dryad bit, and I was like, oh, I just really like that idea.
mhm. I actually do too. I will give you a quick thing since I haven't mentioned it in any of the fiction yet. I'm going to send it to you, and I don't know if she'll ever show up in the fiction, but I'm going to send you something in on the Discord text chat so it doesn't get on the recording real quick here.
Sounds good. All right.
Let's see. So there's that. You might be laughing with, but not on the recording yet. I don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely getting some chuckles out of that. I didn't want to say anything because, like, yeah,
uh, okay, so uh, so former psychic, former psychic, let's see. I'm trying to figure out a grammatical way to put former psychic dryad in there that doesn't sound bad.
dryad, comma, former psychic.
That works, and that's actually a pretty good defining aspect. And I would advise you to put it into your as defining aspect into your bio and info. Which are you editing right now?
Yep.
Okay. I don't want, since Roll20 is very funny about people, having multiple people work on the same folder. I'm trying not to touch that. Okay.
Yeah, I figured that out when I'm running my game. It's rough on my players.
Yeah. So that's why we have a designated person in charge of keeping the treasure handout sheet when we're playing, so nobody ends up erasing things by accident.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm just like, hey, you guys, take care of your own treasure. If you lose it, too bad.
Yeah. Well, we
I
have
prefer to. Sorry.
we
I
have
prefer to think of friendship as the real treasure. Sorry, that's all I wanted to say.
no problem.
Oh,
Okay, so Eli, with that defining aspect done, Eli, what is the defining aspect of your airship captain?
Well, my character's name is John Jagger, and his defining aspect, as of right now, is Sky Captain from the world of today.
Was he ex-military?
Definitely he was. And then he managed to land himself a cushy job on a cruise liner of sorts.
Okay. Now, the other thing I can do with aspects is I can trigger them myself and cause something bad to happen. This gets you a fate point. So when bad things happen because you're aspects, that's actually can help you in the long run. That's why you want aspects to be kind of double-edged. Being a dryad does work that in, by the way. Okay. Okay. By the way, what kind of psychic were you before?
So I definitely didn't read the section on humans or psychics. So I assume,
Give me a
I don't
general.
know.
Give me a general concept that you want to run with.
Okay, I'm thinking.
Think from general science fiction because that's where I drew a lot of the stuff.
All right, so like, just things that like mess with her trouble aspect is like sometimes she'll just like have you seen videos of astronauts who come home from space and they just like throw a pen and they're really surprised when it hits the ground?
Right.
So she just like she'll just like drop shit and be like, "Oh, I make it float, but I can't do that now. Okay.
Okay, so she used to be telekinetic. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, which would be a manipulative in the terminology because it manipulates the world around. What was the phrasing on the trouble that you had again?
The phrasing I had for it was just she tries to use a psychic ability that she doesn't really have anymore. So like that.
So let's try to. We could. That's a little bit long to put. How about forgets what she is?
Yeah, that works. Because I was thinking like pretty recent in the whole since the incident.
Right. Out of curiosity, was she? Oh, we'll get to that in a moment. Let me get the trouble from Sky Captain. What was the trouble for the Sky Captain?
Hmm. Working that one out. I mean, it seems kind of passe to have something to do with alcoholism because I seem to do that with a lot of characters these days.
He's an ex-soldier. You could do something like that. He tries to do sick combat flips in the cockpit.
Oh, so he probably got discharged for like doing trick stunts. Nah, I'm not quite sure what his trouble aspect is.
I can say that while cybernetics is a thing in Divine Blood, people with cybernetics are generally taken off the front lines because the cybernetics aren't resilient enough to handle like high end athletics or high end combat ops. They break too easy, and it requires having to go back to get them fixed too often.
Right. So maybe he was in a crash of some sort.
Okay.
So let's see. Arms or legs? That's a good question.
All of his internal organs.
That's a little bit harder to judge up on that. What kind of pilot was he? Was he a transport pilot or a fighter pilot?
He was a fighter pilot, I think.
Okay.
And like Mike said, he just did ridiculous stunts. He was like a brash pilot.
Not a mecha pilot, but a fighter jet?
I think so.
Okay.
But I think like whatever accident he was in that injured him badly probably also got him discharged because it was probably something like unnecessary and foolish.
So, his trouble might be he remembers the glory days.
Maybe he's like, yeah, that makes sense. He'd be like nostalgic for the good old days back when he was a fighter pilot, and now he flies pretty much a huge fat blimp.
Yeah, with its own cinema.
With its own. Seriously though, from the picture you said, it looks like that thing could fit its own opera house in there.
Yeah, I got it off. I got that picture. I went looking for airships, and most of them were the steampunk stuff or the real life type zeppelins. And then I found that one from a wiki. I was like,
Not bad.
Honestly, like my first thought when Eli like pitched this game to me, I was thinking it was like a starship, and I was like building like space characters in my head.
those don't. I mean, they're the in technically the technology for interplanetary stuff exists. No one has done an actual mission to like. There is a space station at a Lagrange point somewhere that has a fairly significant population fairly commonly, like somewhere in the hundreds. Um, but no one has done a planetary colonization thing yet that anybody knows of, because everybody's afraid of certain rogue nations trying to shoot down the mission vehicles before it left Earth orbit.
All right, yeah. I mean, Eli's been watching a bunch of Doctor Who lately, so I'm just in space all the time.
Coincidentally, so have I.
Space.
Okay, so do we want to go with the ambition? Do we want to do the ambition, background, and conviction aspects, or do we want to save those for later and move on?
Well, I was kind of wanted to make a slight addition to my other aspect. You know how I said he was like he misses the glory days. Maybe he's like washed up.
Okay,
Like he used to be really awesome, but now he flies a blimp, so he's kind of let himself go a bit.
so I used to be awesome. Would you prefer that?
Yes.
Are you writing this down on your own character sheet? Because these will only show up on this thing. I'll be using a different map board when we're actually playing.
I'm getting it down.
Okay. Yay. Okay. We can go ahead and leave the others blank for now and go on if you want, or if you have something specific you want to say about them, we can.
Could you just tell me again what they are?
Ambition, background, and conviction. So ambition is something you want to accomplish. Background is where you come from. And conviction is uh, your philosophy of life, basically.
Okay, I see it now on the thing. That was like directly where my character sheet was open.
Ah, so okay.
I've been missing like half of all the stuff you've been writing down because I have my character sheet open.
I'm mostly I'm mostly writing it down for anybody that might watch this afterwards. Okay. One thing I would like to ask is your character, her psychic background, is she from one of the supernatural communities, or is she like from like a government program, or was off on her own, or something like that?
I'm thinking probably one of the supernatural communities is more likely.
Okay,
I was
go on.
I was sort of thinking that the whole dryad fruit incident was a she didn't mean to eat the fruit. I'm not really. I don't have 100% idea of how exactly it came about, but just I want to make sure that she's like in a place where that could happen by accident. So I feel like government, they'd be too well put together to let something like that slip into their psychics.
Possibly the United States, the various world governments generally don't know about dryad fruit, and they're fairly rare occurrences in modern days since they've been people have been trying to eliminate the, the parasite for hundreds of years. Um, but yeah, you would have you might have been from a group that you might have heard about dryad fruit, but not known what it looks like or smells like. And it does smell really nice when it comes up. It is very tempting.
All right.
They're like kind of greenish blue apples.
It's so weird because I was actually thinking about apples. So nice.
Okay. So we'll probably say community. Was she a civilian or did she do dangerous stuff?
Definitely civilian.
Okay. So she may have just used her powers as a sort of a convenience of life convenience thing rather than actual defend herself.
Yeah, definitely just like life can be like yeah,
Okay.
like this major change like it didn't ruin her life exactly. It's just really inconvenient and it's kind of messed with her relationships pretty bad.
Everybody around you, since you'd be part of the community, would be treating you with pity.
Yeah. That's what I want. I want that.
Okay. Do you So we'll hold off on the aspect for that unless you have a specific phrasing you want in mind for any of the three. We can move on to the ability scores if you want.
I'm good to move on.
Eli?
All right, decided that other aspect. I'm gonna just call it unfit for duty.
Oh, was that the which one? Is it the trouble, the disadvantage?
Yeah,
Instead of used to be awesome?
I know. Used to be awesome. Just
Okay.
like I don't know how you would play off of that.
Oh well, there's lots of ways. Trust me, I can find them.
No longer ship shape.
That's really nice, actually.
All right, ready to move on when you are.
Okay, so you have 27 points. 2 is average. Psychic is going to be probably about 0 for both for the Sky Captain. It's going to be -1 for the Dryad because you're essentially a cripple.
Yay.
You're impaired.
Impair, she says, making fruit.
God.
Okay.
All right, so where am I putting these? Like, am I making just a new list for my thread? Like, help me out here.
I would generally put them underneath the aspects, like I have on the map here. Yeah, you can make them however whichever format you think you would deal with best.
All right. Uh,
Generally, when I start making a character in this system, I start with 2s in all the 12 normal characteristics. Just a moment, I'll show you what I mean. Kind of like that.
Okay, okay. All right. I see how this is. I see how I'm supposed to do this.
And then I put zeros in the psychics. In your case, those would be -1, by the way.
Got it. Okay, let me write these down.
So you might actually have, you will actually probably have 30 points. Or you could do 27 and use those the 3 points you get for -1, -1, -1 on other things. You can get a maximum strength of 2 as a dryad, but that means she does a lot of exercise.
All right. I'm gonna just write down like the basis of these, and then maybe think about my character a little bit because
Okay. So
I'm not 100% on her.
okay, so just so you know, putting 2s in all of those is 24 points, so you would have 3 other points to put out. If you wanted to reduce something so that she's weak at one concept or another, you could reduce it to a 1 and put a point somewhere else. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. And you're going to have an extra 3 advantage points, which you can spend to increase later. But assume you have an extra 3 points. We'll deal with what you got from reducing the psychic later. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
By the way, 1 is weak. It's not. It's not crippled. It's low. It's relatively low. It's not like incredibly stupid or anything. 0 is crippled or handicapped. 0 is handicapped. -1 is crippled. Okay. Does that make
All right.
sense? Okay. So Eli, do you have any particular
Hello.
idea of what you would like to? Like I said, my general suggestion is to start with all 2s, and then in your case put 0s in the manipulative, metabolic, and sensitive, which I can do.
All right.
This is just what I do as my default starting point, so I have fewer things to manipulate. Three is good. 4 is really, really good. You're generally going to need to be a good to have a 4, because advantages will do a lot for making your character very good at specific tasks. Does that make sense?
All right. Let's see. I'd say he's probably a crafty fellow.
So you know what craft is. That is building things, fixing things, stuff like that. So it does fit that a person who deals a lot with vehicles would be good at craft. But just so you know what it is.
All right, so make that a 4 then, or 3, because I feel like 4 would be like maintenance staff, but 3 would be like someone who had to sub in occasionally, like he probably did.
4 would be like MacGyver.
I made this paper clip and this piece of paper into a knife. What?
Yeah. 4 is really ridiculously good, and you're really good at every application of that ability.
Oh yeah, well, I don't think he's that good, but probably 3 is a decent way to go.
Okay. And give me a moment here. I'm going to pause the recording for a moment. Yeah, because that's the reason why I paused the recording there. I didn't want 5 minutes of dead air. Okay, let's see. Now, okay, so you know, let's talk a little bit about your character. Your character is the captain of the ship.
No.
No,
I'm Dryad.
Eli. Excuse me. Eli was doing was I was talking to Eli when I paused the recording for a little bit.
Yeah.
So your character is the captain of the ship. How so
He's not here.
Oh, I apologize. I thought I heard his voice. For some reason, I thought I heard his voice. Okay, so your character is a dryad. What was her occupation?
Yeah.
What was her occupation? We've established that she wasn't psychic by occupation, just by birth. What was her occupation?
All right, can you give me like a little bit of more background on like how communities work? Is it just like normal society but with powers?
For the most part, they're kind of low key. Most of them live everyday normal lives, and generally don't use their powers in ways that call attention to themselves. So, where a lot of urban fantasies, there's an active masquerade trying to keep people from learning about the truth.
Yeah, okay.
There used to be something like that a couple generations back, and some of the people that lived for centuries will remember it. But in general, the current generation of the community, the psychics and the non humans, don't pay pretty much lip service to secrecy. And the reason people haven't noticed them is because they don't do anything to stand out.
Okay. Then I guess a good past occupation for her would be ooh boy.
Hobby would be good as well if, like, she's a university student still. That's in their occupation. I'm just looking for something to use to help us guide what attributes to give her. Abilities, excuse me.
All right, I'm giving some thought here. All right. So yeah, probably a university student then would work best for me, considering. And hmm, as far as hobbies go, kind of a bit of a social person. Just kind of like not a party person exactly, but just like was friends with everybody, and that's why the whole dryad thing really just rocked her because not only does she not have her like abilities anymore, it's changed all of her like
Interactions.
relationships.
Right. So
Yeah,
she
yeah.
might be on vacation to get some time away.
The vacation is actually a gift somebody just like pity gave her.
I thought the term telepathetic sounded nice.
That actually might be interesting. Yeah. Um, that would be pretty interesting. We could actually, if you want to change forgets what she is to telepathetic, that would work. It's your choice.
Yeah, all right. Um,
You got a laugh out of it. Usually, when someone gets a laugh out of something, that means it's a good aspect.
yeah, that's true. Okay, yeah, I'll put that in. Yeah.
By the way, aspects can change in gameplay. I had a character in that I played. The first character I played in a Fate game was a Dresden Files game, Sorceress, and I ended up saying the phrase "It's not my fault" so often that about halfway through the campaign, we decided it was an aspect.
It's
That's
against
excellent.
my will.
It was always true. Whatever the stuff she was getting blamed for was hardly ever her fault.
A good alternate to that is I didn't do it, but like no spaces.
Yeah. Okay. So I put the -1s over here to the right because that's what your That's what dryads can't get above that on psychic. Just so you know.
Right. So that's so I have a question about that. Does that mean apart from my so like after doling out twos and everything else, I have three extra ability points? And then since those are all negatives, do I have three more extra ability points?
The general way it works is it adds to your advantages, um, which you can use to spend. Uh, Overall, the dryad thing does end up costing you one advantage point. So those the negative ones are accounted for in the dryad template. But you can so you actually still do just have the 27. I was confused about that myself earlier. I'd forgotten the way it does it. You have the raw 27. And then for the basic dryad template, this will go down to 5. And that accounts for this and other weaknesses. Okay?
Okay, yeah.
Plus the advantages you will get.
Okay, and you said that like stuff like physical, like strength, it wouldn't normally be two unless she was a big buff
Endurance, agility,
like
and perception
Amazonia.
can endurance, perception, and agility can go up. Strength, on the other hand, it's part of the design of the parasite is to keep you physically weak. Remember this. Actually, I don't know if you noticed this or not. If I wrote this down or not. The dryad, the dryad vine was built under Zeus's orders. So it was built by um, a very bad person.
That guy.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just imagining him doing this, and then somebody's like, "Zeus, he did it again," followed by like that little musical thing from Seinfeld, like.
Oh, Zeus is a sociopath in this setting. He's a major villain.
I see. So he's evil.
All right, so I know what the abilities kind of do based on the default fate system, but there's a couple that don't transfer over. Like, can you just give me a short overview of stuff like craft or reasoning or empathy or resources, like some of the ones that aren't obvious?
Okay, so craft is representative of your ability to put things together or take things apart. It would be used for writing a programming code. It would be used for the technical quality of a written piece of paper, a written story. It would be used for sabotaging a piece of equipment. When you come to understanding the technical details on how to do something, that's craft.
Okay.
For artistic stuff, where you're actually making, trying to affect emotions, all that would go to persuasion. Which persuasion is anything from trying to scare someone to trying to charm them. It's whenever um, you're trying to you're trying to produce emotions in somebody else. It's your
All
force of
right.
personality, basically.
And
Empathy. Go on.
so resources, is resources the same as it is in the default system? It's kind of like the money and connections you have.
More or less, yes. It's your ability. Like someone can be might come from a rich family and be fairly rich, but have a low resources because they don't use it very well. Um, so, but yeah, aspects can alter a little bit about how much money you have. So resources is how easily you are able to acquire something. In this circumstance, we're going to be doing the thing where your character gets the characters get stuck in an alternate dimension, because this is the playtest. The next playtest campaign I'm going to do with Anne and company is this concept. The resources will generally be a matter of how resourceful you are and how efficient you are with using what's at hand.
All right. Can you tell me about empathy? I sorry I cut you off there.
No problem. Empathy is reading other people, picking up on their emotions, understanding what they're feeling, telling whether or not they're lying or not, stuff like that.
Okay, so I guess maybe is empathy basically the social equivalent of physical perception?
More or less, yes.
Okay, all right. I'm building like this crazy nerdy like socialite person.
Indeed. Cool. Knowledge, by the way, is stuff you already know. Things. It's knowledge you've had. Knowledge you have already acquired, basically. Reasoning is
Yeah, and
logic and the creation of
go ahead.
yeah. Reasoning is logic and the creation of new knowledge.
And willpower is just like willpower, like the amount, like how much you can inspire yourself to do something, I guess.
Or how good you are, how strong you are at resisting influence, external influence, resisting temptation, that kind of thing. Ignoring pain.
Okay. Hmm. All right. And so the way that these work is four is like godly, and everything like two is average, and you said zero is handicapped.
Yeah, well, 1 is weak, 2 is average, 3 is very good. Very, very good. Not There aren't going to be many people with 3. 4 is some of the top people in the world. 5, which I'm not playing, we're not playing with 5, a limit of 5. 5 is once one the top person in the world. And to my knowledge, there is only one character that I would devise in the setting who has a 6 in any stat. And she's human for now. She will also be a dryad. She has already eaten the fruit.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, and I guess you know what the others are. Agility is controlling and moving yourself. Endurance is your own physical resistance. Perception is noticing things. It's also used for dodging ranged attacks. Strength is physical strength, lifting things, melee attacks, that kind of stuff.
Okay. So, like, given my race, strength is obviously I'm gonna have it be a bit low. It's gonna be like weak at 1. Endurance, though, like that's okay to be 2 or 3, right?
Yes. Dryads are actually very healthy and hardy.
Okay. All right. I think I have my thing set up. Let me double check to make sure I'm not over points.
Yep.
And so I'm at 27, and you say I don't get 3 extras because of my psychic negatives.
It's accounted for in the template. There are some things you get as a benefit for being a dryad. Let me go ahead
Yeah.
and type those out in the chat.
Okay, cool. Just making sure. Just making sure. Then yeah, I'm all set up.
There's that.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Those are the three things you get. Actually, four things. There's three powers and one heroic advantage. Dryads are among the most beautiful things in the setting. Again, this parasite was invented by Zeus.
Yeah. All right.
And resistance is one of the ones that ended up that I couldn't put in the actual book. That's going to be in the Strands of Fate book. Give me a moment to open that file.
Oh boy, I just had a Freudian slip, but it was like my typing. Instead of regeneration, I put regeneration.
I couldn't facepalm. My hands were busy.
It's the thought that counts.
Okay, so where it says resistance, diseased, and then you get the improved resistance modifier, that means if you got infected with a disease, you would ignore the first 8 points of damage it did anytime it tried to affect you.
I mean, I should hope so. I do have a terrible parasite inside of me.
Yeah. So dryads are very, very hard. It's very hard for dryads to be affected by bacteria or viruses because the parasite doesn't like them.
All right, so I have a question. The way I'm keeping track of these in my journal, I guess, in my character sheet is I'm like listing my advantages. Is self-evolving under power advantages, or is it its own thing?
It's a power advantage.
All right, cool.
Self-evolving is a thing I came up with in this um, because it covers a lot of different things. Where did I put you? There you are. You are basic. She is basically very resistant to being transformed by outside forces from this point on.
All right, neat.
So if something were to try to, it's a fairly rare attack, but if something were like to try to inflict you with the werewolf curse, which is another rare thing. I mean, it's something that people could try to afflict you with, but again, very rare. Your character would resist it very easily. And
All right.
ageless just means your character does not age.
Yeah, I mean, I did find the dryad thing under the immortal section, so
Yeah. Regeneration, normal regeneration in divine blood is not any faster than normal person healing. It's just more complete. So someone with regeneration would eventually heal a severed arm, for example. You have speedy regeneration, speedy recovery, which means you heal faster than normal too.
all right, neat. I think that I'm all filled out then. 'Cool, thanks.
Oh, cool. You got endurance 3, perception 3, knowledge 3, empathy 3, persuasion 3. Neat. Okay.
Yeah, I did build her pretty social, and then like I built a backstory kind of on the fly here. It's been about like maybe 2 or 3 years since the incident, and so she's got her social skills. But then after she lost all her friends, she just hung out in the library like a big nerd.
Got it.
Yeah, so that's why she's got a big chunky knowledge score.
Okay, I like the background aspect there. Community, society, pity. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
I didn't know quite what to put in there, so
Well, the similarities and the rhyming scheme makes it really work. I tend some people like really just descriptive aspects, and other people like things to be very flowery, and I kind of like quips, one-liners type things.
yeah. All right. Well, then hopefully this works.
Okay, so the next step is specialty aspects, and these work the same way as normal aspects, but they're specifically designed to be narrower in function, if that makes sense. Like telepathetic is a story thing. It's a character aspect, so it talks about what kind of story your character is going to be experiencing. Specialty aspects are more about quirks or specific skills your character has or specific items. If we were doing this with Doctor Who, the sonic screwdriver would be a gear aspect, for example.
Okay. All right.
And I'm going to list the 5 suggested ones from the aspect alphabet in a moment here. I'm typing them out. They'll be on the map.
All right. Cool.
Okay. One difference between these is that they have a one of the abilities listed in parentheses to help you give a further idea on how to define it. For example, what was one of the examples I had? Um, I have books here. I should just. Here we go. No, that's not character creation examples. Okay, I trying to remember things that I've done before for the aspects for other examples I've done, and trying to remember one of the examples I've done is not coming clean. Um, I would say something like bounces back as an aspect. If you put bounces back connected to willpower, it would mean your character bounces back from mental trauma easier. If you put it on endurance, it means they bounce back from physical trauma easier. Um, you would still be able to use it in either case. You would still be able to use it anytime it kind of applies, even if you're not rolling endurance or you're not rolling willpower. But the marking it to a specific ability helps further narrow its definition, if that makes sense.
Okay. I don't. Uh, I
And
don't
again,
know if I get it.
okay. Let's see if I can give an example. Let me read.
Like I understand that part. What I don't get are the 5 examples put out. Extraordinary skill. Like what?
Extraordinary skill is something your character does extremely well. It could be an actual skill, or it could just be something a sort of talent that it's not particularly a skill so much as it is just a thing you do. or
All
a
right,
physical. Go on.
so for instance, if my character, she's a bit of a social person, so her extraordinary skill would just be makes good first impressions. That could be a thing. Like that
Yes,
would work.
that could. Yeah. There's also an advantage specifically for that, so you could double up and be very good at it.
Okay.
So you could do extraordinary skill aspect makes good first impressions, and you could connect it to either persuasion, in which case that kind of implies that they are they put themselves out very well, or you could put it to empathy, where they read the situation well and know how to behave ahead of time.
Okay. Yeah. I was actually just using that as an example, but the more I think about it, it's a pretty good one.
Foe aspect is something that gives you trouble. Past foe aspect was the ever present danger of inanimate objects. Said character ended up tripping a lot. Um, they managed to get through a bunch of booby traps and mines, and then got tangled up in laundry. Stuff like that.
Excellent.
One of the other characters we have currently has dogs. Why did it have to be dogs as a foe aspect? And recently they got attacked by Gould security dogs.
Yikes.
Gear aspect is a item or a location that helps you. In this case, probably an item. Something. It could be something nostalgic, or it could be something practical.
Oh boy, these are the ones that are going to give me trouble, it seems.
Yes, but again, these are all things we could really say, uh, leave off till we get in gameplay.
Yeah. So help aspect is. Can you just finish explaining them? Maybe one will click.
A help aspect is a person or type of person that you have a good relationship with, that you connect well with. Since you're going to be on a ship full of strangers, it'll probably be a type of person. Would be most appropriate. Or maybe you made friends with one of the crew already. And
Okay.
inferior skill aspect is exactly what it sounds like. For examples, some of the inferior skill aspects from the sample characters: clean hands, clean heart for someone who's a little bit OCD. Sings like a cat.
I mean, I just thought of something that is just insult to injury for my character.
Oh no, what's that?
I mean, I don't know if it would fit here because it's already like reflected in her ability points, but she's a telekinetic, and her strength score is really low. So she literally heavy things. She used to do it with her mind, and now she can't physically do it either.
Repeat that again, because there was a connection fault.
All right, so she used to be telekinetic,
Oh
right?
yeah, I heard that. There was the actual phrasing you used for the aspect that I lost.
Oh, well, I wasn't thinking aspect. I just think it's kind of sad. She can't pick up anything heavy because she can't pick it up with her mind, and she also can't do it physically.
Now here's the thing. If you make it an aspect, you get a fate point whenever it happens in the story, and I will have it happen in the story fairly often.
All right.
If you
Inferior
put it,
skill.
if you leave it just to the ability scores, it's a thing you can't do, but it might not show up that often.
Okay.
That's the thing about Fate. The character sheet is very much a roadmap for the GM to follow to see what kind of things, what kind of troubles, what kind of challenges the player wants to face.
All right, so it's almost like a role play guide more than a an ability point modifier.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's kind of fun, actually. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to phrase this in like one or so lines for for an aspect.
Why is everything so heavy?
Excellent. I'm gonna use that.
Okay. Eli, are you back yet?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
No problem. So I saw you already did your stats.
Thought it might come in handy.
Yep. You're a pretty strong guy and enduring. You're going to be hard to take down.
I mean, yeah. Just you try it.
Okay, did you have an idea for any of the specialty aspects, or do you want to leave that for actual in-game?
I'm not sure what his specialties would be.
Well, if you do want to go with the cybernetics thing, you could note one of your you could note the cybernetic piece as either a gear or an inferior skill aspect.
Wow, so that can either be a piece of equipment that I could use sometimes, or something that messes me up sometimes.
Well, it'll be something that messes you up sometimes either way because cybernetics are prone to breaking in the setting. In normal day-to-day use they're not, but if you put them to a lot of stress, like in crisis situations, they're prone to break, because they're very delicate machines. But if you put it as a gear aspect, it is something. It is something that you can use. You'll be able to make good use of it, positive use of it, a little bit more often. It's more good than bad, basically. If you put it in the inferior skill aspect, it is something that I will take to mean you want that to malfunction quite a lot.
All right, let's see. So yeah, I guess that would probably be some part of his gear. I'm going to say it's his left arm.
Oh, cybernetic left arm. Okay. Curious. Does it? Is it a? Does it? Is it lifelike, or did you have, or did you not matter to put it where it looks normal? It is perfectly possible to make a cybernetic arm that fits in perfectly well with looking like a normal arm. Those exist.
He probably would go for one of those.
Okay.
Doesn't want to, like, disturb the passengers with, like, oh man, look at that robot arm he's got on. No, he'd probably just regular looking arm. Like, if he had a hook or something, that would go in with a naval theme, but
Speaking of which, Captain Hook is a derogatory term for someone with a cybernetic arm.
oh, that's right, yeah. So he is that anyway. Alright, so that's in gear, correct?
If you want to, yeah, it fits in either gear or inferior skill aspect. For example, one of the fiction characters, Lieutenant O'Neill, has a cybernetic leg that she shows up in the example combat where it gets damaged, and it ends up causing her a lot of trouble through the entire combat. So that would be an inferior skill aspect because she has this cybernetic leg that breaks a lot because she puts it to more effort than it's meant to take.
Right, so We have defining, ambition, background, conviction, disadvantage aspects.
which I think you already have the disadvantage and the defining.
Right.
And we can save the rest till later. And if you want, we can move on to advantage points.
All right, that sounds good.
Okay. Now everybody gets 3 free expert advantages. Expert advantages typically do one of 3 things. They allow you we'll say one of 4 things. They give you a +1 bonus in a wide variety of situations. They give a +2 bonus in a narrow set of situations. Or they let you use one ability in replacing another one in some circumstances. And they let you break the rules consistently in small ways. Expert advantages generally represent more real-world training type things. I think Eli has the book, the ebook, so you can probably pull up the list of expert advantages. Do you have Demon Next Door as well? I'm not sure if you do or do not.
I don't have the second one, but the first one I do have. Strands of Fate second printing.
Okay. There's Strands of Fate second printing, which is the game I based this off of, and they did not give me legal permission to use all of their advantages. They said I could use all the experts. They were fine with that. And they said I could have 15 heroic and 20, and reprint 15 heroic and 20 power advantages. That's why there's a lot of times I kind of grumble and go check for Strands of Fate. When we do a second edition, and it's looking more and more like we need to do a second edition to clean up some grammar things, some statement things, because we found a couple places in the book where descriptions from earlier versions of the game got in. One of the things I'm going to put in the second edition is a list of which powers are going to be in Strands of Fate, Strands of Power. Anyway, let's see. The one I talked about getting a first impression, Mike.
Yeah.
It's actually called First Impressionist.
Okay.
It's
Gosh.
you get a +2 bonus to the first persuasion roll you make to attract or impress a person. The first time you meet them.
What's the description on that again? What do I get?
+2 bonus to the first persuasion roll you make to attract or impress a person. +2 is a hefty bonus in this game.
Okay, so if I pick that one, I should probably go back and change her ability thing because I had it set to empathy instead of persuasion.
Oh no, you don't have to. Know that your empathy is pretty good. Let me look at that real quick. It actually it is just as good to spread out your bonuses as to concentrate them.
I mean, it would be pretty funny to get a +4 to persuasion because that would put her at 6, which is above and beyond the godlike scale that you've given us.
Okay, so you have empathy 3 and persuasion 3, right?
Yeah.
And you thought about doing a specialty aspect that is connected to persuasion or empathy, I mean.
Specialty aspect. Yeah, I think so. Let me scroll up. Yes.
Okay, so the specialty aspect doesn't come into play all the time. You have to spend a fate point to activate it or make a roll to activate it. Um, but it does definitely give you an advantage, and also I tend to reduce difficulty scores for people that have appropriate aspects, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like character and flavor goes, I don't think I would switch it around.
Yeah, go with character and flavor rather than that. Because right now, if the first impression is you're rolling at a +5 the first time you meet somebody on the
Yeah,
persuasion.
I mean, I have it written down as kind of like a maybe. I would pick that one. I really like being able to like see my whole list, but you sort of told us that I might not be able to see the whole list.
Well, no, because Eli has it, and you're in the same room as Eli.
That's true. I'll hop over there and look at it later.
Okay. Um, but there's other things like you could get occultist, which was a +1 bonus on knowledge rolls regarding psychic abilities and such, which would make sense after you've encountered the dryad fruit. You might have gone and researched and learned a lot about psychic phenomena that you just took for granted beforehand. Um, Especially since you characterized her as holding up in the library after the fact. Um, let's see. Is
Yes,
there
that's a possibility.
basically there's a lot of things here. If you have something you want to be able to specialize in, you can suggest it to me. I can look if there's one that's already existing, or if there is, or I can make one on the fly. For the vehicle specialist, you could get. There is an advantage called vehicle specialist that gives you a +2 to drive a specific sort of vehicle. For the captain. Also, you're the leader of the. You're going to be the captain of the vessel, so you might have some bonuses, some social bonuses yourself.
Right, because he's a he's probably a social enough dude when given the chance, because he is like the pilot. He does make the onboard announcements as well, so I guess he has sort of probably a calming presence of sorts.
Smooth over. +2 bonus to persuasion rolls to calm others.
Nice, smooth over.
There's also the professional attribute, which gives you a +2 bonus to knowledge rolls related to a field of an occupation, basically.
So what does that do?
Professional, and then you would say professional, and you would name an occupation, like airship captain, maybe, or something along those lines. And whenever you needed to make a knowledge roll related to that occupation, you would get a +2 bonus.
I feel like professional pilot works.
That would work, yeah. Actually, it goes with your background too, and still covers a lot of what you would need to do.
All right, expert advantage, right?
Yep. There is also Flyboy, which is a +2 bonus on rolls to pilot an aerial vehicle or spacecraft.
I've actually already got that one.
Cool. Okay. So that's your three free. If you're going to do smooth over, professional pilot, and flyboy, that's your three free ones.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Mike, your three free ones. Did you want the first impressionist? Well,
Do I have to choose right now? Because like
no, you don't.
I have first impressionist and occultist like written down as maybes.
Okay.
But I do want to look at the list.
Okay. Cool. Um, we might want. Let me go ahead and say another one that you might want to look at. There is striking looks. This would make, which gives you a +2 to persuasion rolls when dealing with people who find you attractive.
So like everyone.
Uh, well, everyone who is attracted to females.
All right.
But that's would be you came out as an especially beautiful dryad, basically.
That's right, making Zeus proud.
Yeah.
Making Daddy proud.
Now,
Oh no.
no, don't. Uh, okay.
All right, well, that gives me three to think about, and I'll
Beyond.
definitely like send you a message at least if I find a different one.
Okay. I think at this point we might want to hold off to give you a chance to look at the Divine Blood and the Divine Blood book that Eli has, and the Strands of Fate book that Eli has.
Volunteer.
Okay. Uh, but I will also say that at this point, uh, Eli, you have 6 advantage points you can use to spend on different things, and Mike, you have 5. Okay?
Okay, so the way that that works is so I get 3 free ones, and then I get to buy 5 more.
Okay. Basically, um, there were. No, no, no. The advantages to Dryad slightly outweigh the negatives. So there are 7 points of weaknesses in the Dryad, but there are 8 points of bonuses. Okay?
All right.
So overall, the Dryad's default template cost you 1 point.
Okay.
So taking into account having the -1 in all the psychics, and the weakness that you're never able to increase the psychic abilities at all, and your strength score can't go above 2. Those are both weaknesses. Um, Taking into account that, it only cost you 1 to get the regeneration, the resistance, the self-evolving, and the maternal beauty.
1 each?
No, 1 total.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, the Dryad advantages slightly outweigh the negatives. Very, very slightly.
Okay.
There
I
is
think I get it.
a Dryad in one of the campaigns that's running online that I see every once in a while, who has also taken the Terrify power and defined it as based on skill instead of psychic abilities, and just plays herself off as this really terrifying spec ops soldier that got turned into a Dryad.
Okay. I mean, not really what I'm going for, but that's cool.
Yeah, it's most people think Dryads are these helpless individuals. I mean, they still have their entire all their mind and their personality, but they can never get strong, and they don't have any psychic abilities anymore. You know, everybody treats them like cripples, and there are some very dangerous ones out there.
Yeah, when I was first like thinking of her character, I
Yeah.
wasn't sure exactly how if I wanted her to be kind of sad or to be just like I'm so done with everyone treating me like I'm nothing.
Well, we can decide that in gameplay, but I think
Yeah.
we've got enough to start gameplay with. We can decide on the thing, and if we're playing and you say, "Hey, is it possible that I have an ability or a special knack for doing such and such?" I can suggest a heroic advantage or another expert advantage,
Okay.
or you can put them in between now and then. And we have about 5.5 hours till then.
Sounds like nap time for me.
Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording and talk to you later.
All right, see ya.